This conference will now be recorded.
I don't know. We could call him if we need, or you could just put him on speaker and have him mute himself, whatever you think. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with requests or comments from the public. If anyone does have a public comment tonight, just wanted to remind you to please start by giving your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes. When you get close to the end of your 3 minutes, I'll give you a little signal as you're winding down on your time. I wanted to give everyone a quick reminder as well that it's your 3 minutes, and so we won't interrupt you with comments or responses. If council has a response, if you have a question, then we can direct staff to follow up with you on that, or if you stay to the end of the meeting, sometimes we're able to respond during our council comment time, but we don't interrupt the public comment time with that. So that being said, if anyone has a public comment, feel free to come on up.
Gary Carpenter, 11030 and 11180 Riverview. I'd just like to give you a heads up on what's going on the Riverview project up there. It's a big mess. And people up there that live in this thing, we're getting kind of tired of this. This has been going on 2 years. I know you don't have no control over it, but 3 months they've been working trying to put those box covers in for the storm drains. 2 times or 3 times, I lost count. They had to pull them up, redo them, breaking them and stuff. Now they got them in, and they moved up to the next one, and they found out that somebody surveyed wrong or did something wrong. So they had another crew up there spend 2 days digging all the work that they did for that 3 months up, breaking everything up, and it's all sitting there in a big mess. Then on top of it, since it was surveyed, I can't get the straight answers. Somebody screwed up, but they had to take out the BPU was out there. I think it's 2 weeks ago now. They dug up the main water line and had to drop it 4 feet, about 1,000 feet of it. So I don't know what's going on in this project, but we're getting tired of the mud up there. I mean, bottom won't help us at all on it. They come out and put that black paper up, but there's no drainage anywhere on the property. No, what is it, water retention on the property? And the water's just coming like waterfalls down there, bringing mud. It's washing everything away. It's ruining all the creeks, everybody's culverts and everything. And Vicky Pavicic is getting the same thing off of Herman's property because it's the same group. And it's just a big mess. Eichhoff had to, at least they dug out his culvert under his driveway. Every time it rains, it washes that black stuff right on over it and the mud comes out. But anyway, it's a mess up there. I don't know. There's no end in sight. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. They ain't even working. All the nice weather, they had 1 or 2 guys up there trying to do something. And then there's another issue that I had on Herdman's house across the street from Munson's supposedly hotel. I know everybody knows which house it is. I don't know the address, but that's been sitting there vacant for over 10 years. No grass cut, no nothing done. I think it's about time we did something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we might have an update on that one later this evening.
Yep. Good time.
Okay. Gary, come on in.
Hi, good to see you guys again under better circumstances. Rhonda Smiley, 10526 Richland. I have 2 topics. One, I just want to let you know that I really do support the reissuance of the half-cent sales tax because that's been really, really good for the city. But I wanted to know if anybody had thought about the possible disproportionate effect on our poorer citizens or our lower class or lower income citizens who live close to the Family Dollar, who rely on it, because those people might be able to get some kind of an exemption from that half-cent sales tax, which we know sales taxes are always regressive, so they hurt the lower income people first and worst. So I just want to know if anybody thought about that, if there's any mechanism to do it, just to know that I love the tax. I think it's great, but we've got a lot of people here that are seniors and lower income people who rely on some of our local businesses that have to collect that tax too. Second thing is I want to congratulate you. Thank you for putting Richland Avenue on the repair list. It's been a long time and we really appreciate it. Just like to ask if we could get a little more information on what the plans are, since it's a substantial amount of money and it's going to be a long time. So I haven't been to any meetings lately, so I don't know what discussion there's been about what's going to happen, but it sounds extensive, which sounds like it'd be great, but we'd just like to know what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. No other public comments? We'll move on to item number 2, consider the approval of consent agenda items. Oh, I think I have our minutes instead of the actual agenda on the top of my, nope, I flipped it over. That's why. Okay, so we have A is approval of the minutes, B is statement of bills, C, out of the conversation from the last meeting, I asked that this be added. It was requested to be added to the agenda during the last meeting in keeping with our policy of not adding to items to our agenda at the meeting. I said that under advisement and just decided we'd add it here to give the council a little bit more of assurance, getting another opinion since we were inconclusive prior to this. So if we don't have any other questions on 2, then I'll just hear a motion to.
Madam Mayor,
Mhm.
I'd like to remove item C. I have some new information about this, and our attorney's not here. I would like to move it down the agenda until he gets here.
Okay, so we can remove item C and let's put it maybe right after 8. So we'll just do a 2C there. And if just as I've said before at previous meetings, you have questions specifically regarding that, then we'll be sure to get those answered when he's here and available. So if we didn't have any questions regarding minutes or the bills, then I'd hear a motion to just approve 2A and B.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items 2A and 2B.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Scott and a second from Councilman Shriver. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcock,
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
Item number 3 is old business. Consider authorizing the city manager to approve change order number 2 with Legacy Underground for 102nd Street Culvert Replacement Project.
Mayor, if I recall right, we asked the city attorney to do some research on this particular item and align some of the work with some of the legal jargon that's in that particular contract. I recommend we move that past number 8 and below 2C.
All right. There will be item 3. So we're going to scooch along to item number 4, consider the charter ordinance 1068, exempting the city from the provisions of KSA 12-1651 regarding the newspapers, in which legal publications may be made, and providing substitute and additional provisions on the same subject.
And thank you, Mayor. And if we could make a modification, that would be Charter Ordinance 2023-01. The league recommends that we use a different series number than our general ordinances or our ordinary ordinances. And we used an ordinary ordinance as an example here. So I would just like, when you entertain this, it'll be, the ordinance number will be 2023-01. Okay?
Got it.
The designation of the city's newspaper, official newspaper, is not consistent in the state statutes for all the cities. Therefore, we have authority under our charter ordinance to make such changes, such as modifying and exempting ourselves from certain statutes. So what we're accomplishing here, which has become a normal trend not only in the corporate world, but also in the municipalities across the state, is designating our official newspaper as our website. And this charter ordinance number 2023-01, will officially do that. Now, there are certain statutes in which we still have to publish in, for example, our official newspaper now is the Echo. And so there are things such as the neutral, revenue neutral rate, some of the budgetary items we'll still have to publish, but we'll publish them in 2 places. Now, when I did a query of what's been costing us for the publications, there's some years it's $9,000. So it can be pretty good expense. What I like about this is not only the savings, it's going to attract the traffic to our webpage where we can then show other announcements and that sort of thing. So I think it's a real good source. We have full control. If you understand what happened last time is that we had a week-to-week publication that was necessary, and one of those just by happenstance was missed. And that would be on us, not somebody else that we'd be paying and that sort of thing. But again, There will be certain things that we'll still have to publish. We'll get a full list of those. But anytime the official newspaper is mentioned statutorily, we would just publish it then in our webpage. So that's what this ordinance do and will do, and the staff recommends that we adopt it.
Is the webpage set up in a way that people will know exactly where to find the news, maybe a separate tab or something like that, so every single time it's at the same place for
Yes,
publication?
the answer really right now, no, but we will do that. We have 60+ days for this to be published and advertised that we're going to make this change, and that'll give us some time to go in with our Civics Plus, as I believe is our web page designer and host, and we'll be able to add a tab that says publications, aka newspaper, if you will, and put that in there. So that's our plan right now.
And could you give just an example of what items would be included that normally we would publish but now wouldn't be published?
A simple ordinance, resolutions, any of those things required for public notice that are required by statute to be notified to the public so that they have access, they could read about it. Then if there's a hearing, for example, we have hearings coming up on unfit structures, for example. We would publish those one time, and then the next week we publish them again. People that may not have access anywhere else would know to come to our website. They could read both of those and then come to a hearing should they choose to do so.
Mark, do we have somebody on our staff that can update that, or is there another designer? I think you mentioned there a web hoster, web host, if you will.
Yeah, what we intend to do is engage them. They're kind of, we can do some modifications on our website, if you will. It's more of the web page design.
Yeah.
We're going to have them put a tab where we don't have one now, drop down where you see government, for example, or underline publications, newspaper, where they would go down, and that has to be designed in some way, and we'll have the professionals do that, and then people will be able to then have access, which we already do, and be able to update the web page itself.
Okay, but just so I'm clear, then somebody on staff would be able to make daily changes, weekly changes as needed, up to code, up to state statute?
That's correct.
Okay.
I hate to put, the city clerk has some official responsibility in some of those things. And in addition, we have staff members who already access that on a regular basis from the police department as well as the clerks in the office. So there's plenty of folks to do it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we didn't have to wait on somebody else to be able to change our information, and especially with newspaper type information, we would need to go in fairly quickly for as long as we wanted it and then pull it and then, run it again whenever we needed to do that. So it's good that we have control of that.
Yeah, there'll be, I presume there will be in design some historic links. You push, go back to 20 something,
Yeah.
Push a link and there it is. You're not, what it comes as today, I wish we'd brought the example, we have one in the mail today. It's literally the strip of newspaper on a piece of white paper showing that's been officially publicized, but it's on a piece of paper, right? That's how we get it. Now, it'll be right there, it'll be on a link, that sort of thing, it'll be really accessible.
Mark, they had a little class about this up at the league meeting this weekend. They suggested too that you publish twice all the addresses where somebody that doesn't have access to a computer can go, like the libraries. And we could post maybe the one at Bonner, the one on like 78th or 82nd Street. And then also they could come down here and get a copy of it or something. They suggested to do that twice in our newspaper and also on the website, but you don't have access. But anyway, they suggested that because that would give people the opportunity to understand that we are now going to a web-based, and this is where you can go and look it up if you don't have access.
So as a practice, they're suggesting beyond publishing, which we would do in the Echo 2 times.
Mhm.
That's last we published. That we have some sort of printout, maybe on a bulletin board or something, or where would they put it at the library? Is that kind of what you're suggesting?
No, they could go to the library and use the computer there to access the website, our website.
Right.
So, but I think we should publish it twice in the Echo before we actually kick this off.
Yes, and we have to do that.
Right.
Yeah, by code, we absolutely have to publish the 61st day, then we can start using our own webpage to do that.
But I think we should put the addresses of where you can go and access this if you do not, in the Echo, because some people still take it.
Okay.
you know?
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, and put it in the, you can go to this library, you can go to this library, or you can come to City Hall.
With our publications,
Right,
these addresses where there would be access
Yeah.
to some sort of computer. Is that
right, yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Mark, and our hot shot, could that be used in any kind of like information like what Mark's talking about or
Official publication, that's what we're doing here is the website
Yeah.
designation. It even has in the ordinance, it'll have our official, assigned, owned webpage. Now, as far as the hotshot, this is publicized information, so it's public record. We can push anything out on
Yeah.
that. So that's not beyond, we could certainly do that as an addition, but not in lieu of.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the last thing I want to do too is create more work for somebody. You know, I think we want to definitely do what we need to do by state statute, but I think that the good thing is we have options. So I think it's a great idea. Madam Mayor, if I may, if there's no other questions, and I didn't catch your new numbers, but if
2023-01.
okay. If we make a motion to approve, did you say it was, or you say ordinance or what'd you say?
This is the charter ordinance.
Okay, charter ordinance 2023-01, exempting the city from provisions of the KSA 12-1651 regarding newspapers in which legal publications may be made and providing substitute and additional provisions on the same subject.
Second.
That's hard to say.
We have a motion by Councilman Scott and a second by Councilman Malat. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
I'll recuse myself.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcock. Yes. Bishop,
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, it's governing body, I'm sorry. The mayor gets a vote as well.
oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry,
You're good. You're good.
it's for those time.
Yeah, it gets a little tricky. Number 5, consider resolution 2023-12, fixing the time and place for a hearing to determine if the structure at 250 North 110th Street is a dangerous, unsafe, or unfit for human habitation.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Council, we'll have Lieutenant Brent Todd make the presentation. Captain Jeff Short, then I stand corrected. And the citizen just mentioned this particular address, and we've been trying to address it.
Okay, so this resolution 23-12 addresses the concerns at 250 North 110th Street. Recommendations for.
The microphone.
Yeah, let me get you this.
I'm so sorry.
I think so. Addresses the concerns at 250 North 110th Street. The recommendation is for City Council to set a date to conduct a public hearing regarding a dangerous, unfit structure. As you can see from the photos here, there are concerns related to ordinances. Staff has done an assessment and evaluation of the property and found concerns related to the structure and fit for the city's codes. If you guys decide to move forward with setting a date, it of course would be published, and the dates are set forth here in the third page of your packet. The first time it will be published is on the 12th of October, followed by the 19th of October. And 30 days afterwards, or about there, will be the hearing set forth on the 27th of November, 2023.
Sorry if I've forgotten. Has there been any contact with the owners?
We have reached out to them, and the communication to them was that we're going to move forward with our process. We haven't received any negative feedback, but we're not waiting on them to move forward. The concerns are enough to where we have our own process in place, and we're not going to wait any longer on them.
Are they up to date on their taxes?
I don't know that. I could get you an answer though.
yeah, just make-
Jeff, have we, just look at that picture there with the overgrowth of the grass. Have we addressed that with them that you know of too?
Yeah, so Community Service Officer Haas, he addressed with them the overgrown status, the concerns with the structure, the concern with the roofing,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. It's
And-
got some serious issues as it relates to not just aesthetics, but also structure.
Have we fined them at this point for anything for not
There-
complying?
To my knowledge, they have not been issued summons to appear in court.
Okay.
We try,
Force modes, do you know?
no, we have not done any force mows, but it definitely, it's on our list.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-12, setting a date to conduct public hearing regarding a dangerous structure and dangerous and unfit structure at 250 North 110th Street.
Second.
There's a motion from Councilman Malat and a second from Councilman Shriver. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcock,
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes. Calm Valley's got the contract.
I hate to do that, but people gotta keep.
Number 6 is consider the contract for authority to award, sorry, make sure it's skip one, through the Department of Transportation to McNanny Construction Incorporated and commitment of the city funds for the reconstruction of 98th Street corridor, phase 1.
Mayor, thank you. Mayor, Council, what you have before you is, I think, one of the more exciting on the agenda. We've been awarded this entire project for the 98th Street corridor, phase 1. That again is north from Kansas Avenue to the city limits. And if you look through the history and the background I gave you, I purposely indicated some of the, what would be astronomical numbers originally projected, and as that's come down. If you look on August 28, 2023, the city received a letter from KDOT which indicated our match was potentially $3.1 million. And then in September 21, same year, we were notified that actually the bid for McNanny Construction was just a little over $5.6 million, and the city's match was $1,536,000. That's just really terrific news. And part of what I understand is some of the supply and overhead has stabilized, inflation-related factors. And I've included the KDOT documents for you. We'll have at least 2 members of council and the mayor to sign, and a couple of staff members, including the clerk. But in closing, what we're doing here is we're agreeing with KDOT to award this contract, and we just have a few more days in which we have to submit this to KDOT. We kind of have to move on it now. And then we're saying that we're committed to matching those funds that they've indicated, that 1.5 million-ish. And so we're doing those 2 things by approving this authority to award. So in closing, we recommend that you approve it.
Yeah, this is great news. I applaud everybody's efforts on this. And what it says the roadway is going to be 32 feet wide. What's the width of it now? Is it somewhere comparable or
No.
a lot less?
It would be it's a rural road, so I don't think it's even an intermodal.
Not even close then, is it?
So we're looking at 10-foot, 11-foot lanes, maybe somewhere
Wow.
in there, with, of course, some poor design ditches. It's a pretty narrow road. I'm sorry, I just don't have those numbers.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Because this is great news. I'm excited about this too. So that'd be, 30 would be curb and gutter as well in this area.
Yeah,
Or
this is a
full mill deal.
Yeah, because it's moving from a rural, if you will, a blacktop road to more of an urban intermodal. So it's going to be what we saw at Kansas Avenue.
Yeah.
That area. So
And that's why I was awarded this kind of money.
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, I'm coming on the end result of this one
Yeah.
and looking back through all the documents. It's what I think McNanny impressed KDOT with was they could be on this project for a year. And that'll be something good for them. And I think the bid shows that that's really in good order. So.
Mark, do you think that it's going to stop at the city limits? Is there any way that we could put some thumb screws on the commission to see if they could consider upgrading 98th Street North the rest of the way to State Avenue? because we're gonna have a real nice piece of diamond there, and we're gonna have below it and above it. We're gonna have a real nice stretch of road, and then you're gonna go back to that 2-lane. So,
Well, I think the approach should be, you know, we've had conversations that didn't seem like there was, you know, a true interest, maybe because of the cost, you know, for that stretch with what you're servicing. So that's always a factor. But what I say is we can always ask. I mean, the answer could be no, but we can certainly ask. We need it. I think once we build that and you see what's there, there may be more momentum, the visual piece of it, say, okay, we'll go ahead and finish that. And maybe they could put it in their rotation.
so I think they need to be made aware that we're gonna get ready to start that project, and maybe, you know, we could put some pressure on Stites and boroughs or whoever's involved with the county that could advocate for us on that.
We can always ask.
So I think it would be a good idea to find out.
Mark, if we just approve this tonight, when would they start this project and what's the proposed timeline to getting it done?
Those will be the kind of the next pieces so our immediate next piece is the funding. Okay,
Yeah.
So we're talking about, we get this, we have to send this document that you have before you into them by the 13th, no later than. That commits us to that. Number one, they're gonna go fully awarded, they're gonna get everything. And so that project timeline will be the next submission
Okay.
after we make our payment.
'Cause-
Which we've extended, luckily, through a request to KDOT, just an additional week. We were supposed to make our payment on, I believe, 11/9, somewhere in there, and we moved it to the 16th as the maximum amount.
'Cause it-
Their quote was, they'll get a little nervous if we go past that.
Yeah, I think there, you know, obviously I'm just curious for my own personal reasons, but then everybody that lives in that area, you know, we definitely would want them given this information about this is what time it's proposed to start and when it's going to end, and try to figure out a plan for them to access certain properties within this project would be huge.
Yes, and I understand they have to keep it open to access local traffic, so that's their responsibility to include all the PR communication.
Okay.
And Legacy, who just did 102nd, for example, it was their responsibility to go door to door, make adjustments where necessary with those homeowners and make sure they contacted them. Very similar to the case here.
Okay.
And we can do communication as well, and we should. Right,
Yeah.
From our office.
Right.
As soon as we know that, we'd like to pin it down. You know, here's the dates that to start. Here's what to expect. Here's how you're going to access, and we'll shoot that information out as well.
That'd be perfect.
If there are no other questions, I'll hear a motion to approve item number 6 on the agenda.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve project number 105N-0728-01, 98th Street Corridor Phase 1.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Bishop and a second from Councilman Scott. Will the clerk please call roll?
Balak,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcock,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Item 7, consider resolution 2023-13 authorizing bond and note financing for the Richland and Kansas Avenue project.
Well, the even harder decision is now you have to pay for it. But luckily, this 98th Street project is very positive. We talked extensively about Richland Avenue, and you heard from a citizen today. We know that's on our priority list. We talked extensively about Kansas Avenue. These are 50,000-foot view kind of discussions because we haven't designed roads. We haven't done any of that. However, there'll be a time when we want to do all of those things in the upcoming months, and we have to pay for them. So the smaller amount, for example, the 1.5 million-ish in the McInerney, the KDOT grant for 98th Street corridor, it's a relatively small amount to fund, and we have these other street projects that we want to take care of. So what we're trying to accomplish here is put the best deal together for how we're going to get the money and spend the money. Okay, so that's kind of the project here. And could I have the link for? Let's visualize before we get into all the kind of the material here. Let's visualize. What you're looking at right now is the current debt picture. Okay, and what would normally be seen as that, because we've added no debt here, we've been paying it down. And remember a presentation from just a couple of years ago from our financial advisors that they talked about our debt ceiling, if you will, and where we were, our financial picture, and we were in a really positive position. And this is why you're going to see into that 24 to 25, there's a fall off. Things are that we took on debt in the past are now falling off. We're paying them off, okay? And we restructured some debt financing, that sort of thing. And our expert, Tyler Ellsworth, is here with us to present. But this is what the current picture looks like. And if you would, please. And to show you that this will be the spike that you will see. There are 2 payments which need to be made for these projects. They're interest payments, and you'll hear about that. This is that spike that you'll see. And then we see that delineator there at 2027, because what you're going to hear tonight is a proposal is to take temporary notes and then convert them into bonds, GO bonds. And in addition with that, about that time, we have phase 2 of 98. So we have really some good opportunities. What we believe is going to be great interest rates for us and a good financial structure into paying for these road projects. If you would, please, thank you. Now what you're seeing is, you saw that spike, and you say, well, how do we afford that? Okay, we have a projected balance in our debt service of just a little over $735,000 in 2023. You can see that we have $888,000 plus in payments. And then we move into our projected revenue. And how do we know about that revenue? We know what our valuation is. And we have 10.41 mils assigned to pay this debt, okay? And so in a sense, we have the balance, the surplus, if you will. We have what our revenues are going to be. And then you look at the expenditures, what we're adding on in interest payments in 2024, we still are slightly above 900,000 in our balance in the debt service. So those 3 pictures are just to give you an idea of we're in a good position. We can make these payments. They're going to be at a good, there's a little spike in 2024, but what happens is other debt falls off in 2025, and we're going to be in a really good position because we have over $900,000 in surplus to help make those future payments, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to call on Tyler Ellsworth, and he's our bond counsel, as you know, from years past and recent meetings, and he'll make the full presentation about these temporary notes and what we're doing with all of this financing plan, okay? Thank you, Tyler.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So, as Marcus said, really the next couple items on your agenda relate to the prior item on your agenda as well. Sort of all packaged. The prior item on your agenda, of course, was approving proceeding with construction for phase 1 of 98th Street improvements. The item that's labeled 7 here on your agenda, resolution 2023-13, authorizes bonds and note financing for both the Richland project and the Kansas Avenue project. So that's really the sole purpose of this next item, resolution 2023-13, is just to say, here's what we're going to do with this money. Certainly more details will come out as those projects move through design and the scope of those projects gets developed. But that's really what we're doing with resolution 2023-13. Item 8 on your agenda is a separate resolution, 2023-14, and that authorizes staff in consultation with UTAC Rock as your bond counsel and Piper Sandler, the city's financial advisor, to put this temporary note issue together. As Marcus said, it will provide financing for the city's portion of the 98th Street phase 1 corridor work. It will also provide funds for design and construction of the Richmond project and the Kansas Avenue project. The reason we structured this as a temporary note is really to give you some flexibility. The way interest rates are currently, this is based on information that Piper Sandler has presented to us. The way interest rates currently are structured is a little unusual. Normally, it costs you a higher interest rate to borrow for a longer period. So if you have a 10-year loan or a 10-year bond issue, typically that interest rate is higher than, say, a 2 or 3-year financing, just because the future is more uncertain. Given the current state of our economy and certain other financial indicators, it actually costs more to borrow in the short term, a higher interest rate than it does to finance things over a slightly longer term. So you actually get a favorable interest rate by structuring this as a 3 or 4 year temporary note than if we did a 1 or 2 year temporary note. And as Mark said, the idea is that these projects get designed, they get constructed. We have a 3 or 4 year time frame in which to do that. But if the opportunity presents itself to pay off that debt earlier and restructure the temporary financing into a long-term bond issue, we have the ability, the way these notes are structured, to call them after 12 months. So you're not locked in for 3 or 4 years. You can restructure 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. And at that time, maybe include the second phase of the 98th Street work in that long-term financing. So that's really the big picture of what we're doing, why we're doing it, the way we structured it. As a specific agenda item, we are consider the first resolution authorizing bonding and temporary note financing for residential establishments. The second resolution really authorizes staff, ARPA, and Piper Sanders to really in the next 2 weeks, put an offering document together, take that out to prospective investors in these temporary notes, and come back 2 weeks from tonight and have bids for the temporary notes for you to accept at that point. So with that, that was a lot of information. I'm happy to answer any questions you have or talk about the process.
Is this a common, process to do this with the bonds and for debt like this?
It is. It's, some cities issue long-term financing for road projects like this right up front. But particularly for you all, there is, in other cities, take the approach that we're taking tonight, where they issue temporary notes, they want to have that flexibility, and then come back in a few years, refinance that construction financing into a long-term bond issue. So we see people do it both ways. I know that in the past, there have been a lot of circumstances, particularly when Mr. Webb was here and he was overseeing these projects, that he felt like there were a lot of costs that kind of shifted on him, particularly with road projects during the course of the project. And one of the things that's nice about temporary financing is if you don't need all of it, you're not locked in borrowing that for 10 or 15 or 20 years. You can kind of, I don't want to say guess, but you can dial in exactly what you need to borrow for a long term once you're part of the long project.
Okay.
And that's the goal.
Okay. Thank you.
It's like a construction loan when you're building a house, and then at the end, then you go refinance the house. That's the simplest way I can put it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And as Mark said, we have an immediate need for the KDOT match. I mean, that's really what's driven this.
Yeah.
But we have the opportunity to obtain financing more economically.
If the project should come in under budget, like the 98th Street projects, and hopefully they do, how hard is it to shift those into other street repair projects after those are done? Like, we want those done, but then if there's money left over, does that tie that up, or is that less to pay off later, or can we roll that over?
It can work either way, and that's a very good question. So if we have funds left over, but we're in a position where we want to issue the bonds and put that long-term financing in place, we can just use those surplus temporary proceeds to pay down that construction loan, if you will, and reduce the overall cost of your long-term financing. Ultimately, if you know well in advance that you're going to have a sizable surplus, we can go through a process where we reallocate those from these projects and other projects. That does take some time. That does probably take some money. But that can be done as well if we run into a situation where that presents itself. And actually, that's probably good to note that part of what we intend to use to pay the KDOT match for the 98th Street project is actually proceeds of your 2020 GO bond issue. And we did that reallocation process, as some of you may recall, the summer of 2021. And so we have some dollars out there. We don't have to borrow for necessarily for this KDOT match. So we'll be that in place as well.
So essentially, we have like a better term, some surplus funds in the 98th Street corridor fund from all of the pre-construction, all the things. So all of that is done. So this money, about 261,000, will go. We have to spend there, and we have no other really other projects on that 98th Street that would better apply. So we're taking that money, and we're going to pay down the note or borrow less money, one way or the other. That formula works still. That we're going to put that as part of our matching funds for the KDOT project.
Even better.
So Mark and Tyler, if I understand correctly, right now Richland is estimated at and not to exceed 3.715 million, and the 98th Street corridor not to exceed 1.536 million. Is that a fair statement?
No, it's the total amount for those are about 1.8 million each on the high estimate. That's where that should be. And
Am I looking at the wrong one?
It's Kansas and
No,
Virginia.
Tyler has the answer.
You're looking at the correct resolution.
I guess my point was that I hate to say the money's not irrelevant. It's expensive as all get out, but I think for us and for the citizens too that maybe live on Richland and 98th Street, if they came up with this number, your number, this number, do we have an idea what that is? Is it, because Richland right now is very narrow and I think, one-way bridges, and the road itself is obviously it's rough. That's why we're redoing it. But, is this making it wider, where it's 2 lanes, and is it going to be painted and, striped, for nighttime driving? And, is that all part of this project?
Yeah, so we're not in design yet, but in a sense, we looked at what it would take to, we have failing on our pacer rating, we have failing on 106 already. So we have a little patch there, but we're going to take the 106 down to Richland because it makes no sense to leave a failing.
Yeah.
And then come back that way. That is all estimated, high level estimates of about 1.8 million. Now Kansas is about there as well because it has additional or different complexities to it. Does that make sense? So it's a different road, different things that have to be done to it. So in a sense, they're both about $1.8 million. What you're not seeing here is Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, the money for the 1.5 million isn't in this particular one. So we're a little bit of confusion. When you just look at this particular 3.7 million, we already authorized the money for the 98th Street, correct? In a previous resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So all you're dealing with now, that money is going to be bonded, of course, and it's part of a package, right, or temporary notes. But when you're looking at this resolution, what we intend to do is go out for funds of 3.7 million to take care of those 2 particular roads.
Gotcha.
To include the 106th Street hill, if you will.
Yeah, and again, that's great. I appreciate that clarification on that.
It builds them to the highest standards that we want. That we talked about surplus.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the design of the road is a little less in some way, right? We don't make an urban intermodal road
Right.
of some sort.
Yeah.
That we scale that back. That may be where you experience some of surplus, but as it was highly bidded, the cost captured is about 1.8 million would build that to the highest of standards.
Okay, good. Because it makes sense if we can make it wider where it makes sense. If it's one-way bridges or, box culverts, we can't change that for whatever reason. I think it's just good that the public knows, what we're thinking about doing.
Yeah, for clarification, the money for the culvert work we already have it, and we're going to be going out for some
Getting that.
quotes and getting that designed, the right-of-way acquisition, and those sorts of things. So that's different money, and so that will be done first, and then
Perfect.
we can design the road, and then we'll know how we can put the cost to the design.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That's perfect because with, the traffic that's there and luckily it's minimal traffic, but there's, traffic there, bus traffic, school bus. So we want to try to build it, the best we can with what we've got.
And then you might foresee the question I will ask, and this street has quite a bit of traffic because of the Hollis Center at the end of it, but Kansas Avenue is on our 2023 schedule for repairs. And so what will happen with the money that we allotted for 2023 repairs? Are we gonna do anything to at least start progress so they can see that we're moving forward, like get the ball rolling on that?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. There is, you mentioned maybe, Mayor, in a meeting or so, that there were these numbers, and I found those numbers, and they're in the special highway money and with current funding. So in a sense, that was right-of-way acquisitions, maybe some utility movement, that sort of thing. That money will stay there. It doesn't go away. So if we don't do anything, now we're in October, if we don't do anything with Kansas, what we really need to kind of hone down on is what kind of road do we want there. So this does have some misalignment, as I might have mentioned in some of the reports over the last few weeks, is that the right of way and where the road is. But we could build a road without moving utilities and without doing anything else, similar to what we did, for example, on Sports Avenue. It's a full depth repair, and that road would last 14 years. And if we maintenance right, do we need to build a $1.8 million road? But that's a policy decision in the sense, but again, we're asking for temporary notes. That gives us those flexibilities if that we decide that road needs to build to this, 60 foot to 80 foot right away, that sort of thing, that, we can do that. And then if we do have some surplus, we find out we're building a different road in the future, that it's less money, then we can of course pay the note or maybe reallocate it to other projects as once we explained. So in a sense, we do have some funds. It was mainly for the utility movements and some of the right-of-way repositioning acquisition changes. Because if you think of that road, it's going to move to what I believe is the west, because it's drifted, though it's straight, as we know, it's east of where probably the alignment is. However, the alignment does work, and if we just fix what's in place, we can certainly do that. But that's a policy decision based on your funds that are available and how you want to go about building that particular road, which may be a little different than what you would have on Richland, which is maybe a little different bill, maybe a little more.
Yeah.
However, you can build them both to 1.8 million, should you so choose to do so.
I just want some speed humps to slow the people down going to the Hollis Center. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I hope that answers the question in the sense that money can stay there if we're not going to use it for utility relocation, or later on we still can. Or we can say it's not a bonded fund where it has specific designation. It's only an internal budget checkmark line item, right? We just said 165,000 utilities right away, 225,000 XYZ. So we can make those changes as a policy, right? But the bond funds, like we're doing here, these say we're going to fix 106 Richland, Kansas Avenue from 110 to the city limits. That's what these say. To include 98 has already been addressed in a different resolution.
So the 1.8 million for Kansas, is that the highest, like assuming we're widening it and the whole?
Yeah, I think that's a good word. There's an assumption there that you're going to build this road to these very specific, and I may be using the term wrong. I'm not an absolute street guy, I'm learning, but like a modern, somewhat urban intermodal road. It's going to be a wider
2-lane stripes.
Yes, all the good stuff. And that may not be what we would think of that. Now, if I'm thinking of it, I'm thinking of 102nd Street, right? That would be that kind of a road in my opinion. It's not to say that we can't give a good road that everybody would be happy with. It would be just less than that big bill.
What's the consequence of taking out a significant extra amount of debt than is needed? Say if we're, as a policy board, say Kansas Avenue, we want it repaired, it needs repaired right away. That's why it was on the PACER scale where it was. Right. But we don't necessarily want to put Kansas Avenue on this residential road. I don't know that the community would want that much of their yards taken for that, but we do want it repaired. So that would scale it way back from 1.8 million to, I mean,
maybe half.
So what's the consequence of taking out $1 million extra? What's the cost
of reducing what we're talking about here? Is that what you mean, taking out, reducing?
Well, like if we're borrowing $1 million extra, is that a significant amount of cost and fees that we're taking on as a city that maybe we wouldn't need to? Because that seems like a substantial amount of money that we may not need to take debt out on.
Well, Tyler, I'll yield to you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know exactly what type say your interest rate was 4% on that $1 million. That's $40,000 a year. If my math is right, $40,000 a year. So I think regardless of what your fees are, and there will be some savings in fees and whatnot if we reduce the size of the temporary note borrowing. But more than anything, you would save on interest each year. So if you know tonight that there's consensus among you all on the dais, yeah, we don't need to do a $1.8 million road, you know, Kansas Avenue west of 110th. That's a probably decision to say, you know, maybe we only need 800,000, or if, you know, 800,000 gets us through the design and gets us a good way, I don't want to say down the road, I don't want to make it fun, but it gets us to where we're trying to get to in terms of getting our arms around what the scope of that constructed set of roads will look like. And that's part of the beauty of the temp notes, is then we can come back and say, well, we needed another $200,000 or $300,000, say, to complete, you know, in addition to the 800,000, but we can bond finance that. And maybe there's another place you can take that $200,000 or $300,000 just to float it until you issue bonds.
I so appreciate you mentioning that, because we very recently have been awarded sci-fi funds that should be coming in from the county every year, and that should be $300,000 to $400,000 a year to make up that difference. So I'm just wondering, and I don't want to throw everybody for a loop here. I just, as you were talking, and I'm thinking about Kansas Avenue, and I want it fixed ASAP, and Richland needs them soon, but not taking out quite as much debt if possible. If we could knock that to a 2.7 million instead of a 3.7 million, still get streets done without taking quite that, or maybe 3 million instead of 3.7.
It really is, you're somewhat without any information before you. It's unfortunate. We're somewhat on a time press. I get all that.
Sure.
Because of the 98th Street kind of piece of it. So the temporary notes gives us the flexibility that we can afford to pay the payments. We can pay down that particular debt with the money that we get on the closing for the bond sale. Okay, so we can, if we take the money now, we'll have it. If something changes, just a few years ago, that 98th Street was $10 million. So what if we have another piece like that where the supply and that sort of thing, and so this $800,000 Kansas Avenue, for example, now is 1.4 million. Right? It's something like that. This gives you that flexibility. That's why we're building this finance structure the way we're doing it. I'm not trying to sell you on anything, but I think the decision today, we can afford it. We're looking to 2027. We convert it then. We have opportunity to take those temp notes, pay the note off. If we have any flexibility or something happens, right, we have contingency funds built into it, and we can build the roads as they need it. But we would be guessing about how much Kansas Avenue costs today by saying, well, is 700,000 enough? And we haven't touched with, say, the sci-fi funds. We haven't touched any of these other smaller roads that are just needing some, that we've been ignoring just because we just haven't had the funds come in. So, you know, right? So we have this additional 400,000 to help supplement the maintenance piece of it, because we've also been taking money from the general fund. Okay, so that it's operational cost, and we've been using that as street maintenance as well. We're taking $100,000 from the special sales tax. So you have sources from all these places which may be able to be moved into that one specific place. And so you have some relief, but you're doing the maintenance and things. But I think back to where we're at with these particular streets, this temp note, you could back off. You absolutely can. But this gives us an opportunity as a funding structure, a finance structure, to then convert these later on, pay the debt back if we need to, and or reallocate it to other things. Because I can imagine in 3 years what roads we would have to then address then. So it's really, again, it's going to be a policy decision about this. But if we back off $1 million, that's an entire road. If you think about 1.8-ish, 1.3 without contingencies is what it takes to build those roads. There's other contingencies built into what might happen, right? If the asphalt is higher, or we use a different product, or the labor cost, or whatever might be in these kinds of things that we don't know 12 months from now when we're in there trying to construct a new road. So I think we've framed up a structure that best addresses those things with flexibility.
Yeah, Mark, I agree. And I think just listen to you and Tyler, just that amount of money, and then with the bond process, I think it's a great idea. And I like that we have options with money, and instead of trying to do a project, try to shortchange it in any way, we're really building it to last a long time, as long as we can anyway, with the product. So I definitely think it's good to have the extra money. And I don't want to call it extra money, but the amount of money, what you're talking about, it gives us options.
And what's, Tyler, is the interest rate 4%?
Let me check on that.
I'm just trying to wrap my brain around all of the math here at a meeting. But it sounds like while we're figuring it out, it would cost us about $40,000 per million per year.
I think that's right.
And so that's just my concern. If we don't have the plan yet, taking on $40,000 to hold back, if we're fairly certain it's not going to be that, and maybe I cut it back too far, but we can do a lot for our streets with that amount of money. In the meantime, if we know that we're not going to do a Kansas Avenue, I say Kansas, that's confusing when I say Kansas Avenue. I mean like a 435 and Kansas Avenue project on the Kansas Avenue closer in. So that's, did you find that interest?
5%.
5%.
It's actually more like $50,000.
So $50,000 for every million per year.
Right.
While we figure it out.
So yeah, one payment, half a payment is 147 in 2024, and then another 147, I believe, the next, and then it jumps to 261, somewhere in there. Because they're shorter temporary notes, you're gonna have a little larger payment, I presume. And then you'll get to that closing time where you sell the bonds. And again, you saw the visual of, that isn't uncommon, that's a payment we've made in the past when we're borrowing about $3.7 million, which we've done in the past.
Do you need two different, with the number 7, number 8, is that two separate
Yeah,
recommendations?
Before you have two resolutions, and we're
Yeah.
talking specifically right now about resolution 2023-13.
Okay.
And then Tyler will talk and speak in detail about the next piece of it.
Okay.
I have one more question. Just have to ask. I know it says here for traffic way improvements, so we couldn't use any of this money for parking lots.
No, you could not.
Community center, I just know that needs to be.
As a side, right now, we had those bids $67,000, I think, for the city parking lot, and that 40-some for that community center parking lot. Just FYI.
Just thought I'd ask.
I don't know. I just highly think we would be scaling this back significantly to get the streets repaired in a manner that our city would expect. I think it would be financially prudent to look at more, closer to 3 million than 3.7 and saving a significant amount of money every year. I don't think I have a vote on the matter, but that's my.
Tyler, there's no penalty for early payment though, is there? Okay, all right.
Are you talking about the call?
Yeah.
The next one?
Yeah, but it
It's worth mentioning right now.
Right.
Yeah, there's no penalty. You can call them, and I think the way they
Good.
you can call them after 12 months.
Yes.
So you can pay them without penalty at any time after the first year.
That's good.
That is good.
Well, I'll make the motion to adopt resolution 2023-13.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Councilman Bishop and a second from Councilman Malat. Will the clerk please call them? Malat.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Hancock. Yes. Bishop.
Yes.
Item number 8. We need a separate vote for this one. Is that correct?
Yeah, 23-14, and Tyler will have a little presentation, just so you have the background.
Thank you. So consider resolution 2023-14, authorizing Q-Talk Rock LLP to conduct a note sale on October 23rd, 2023.
Thank you, Mayor. So as we discussed, I gave you sort of the last agenda item. There's a process that we go through with staff, back with Piper Sandler, your financial advisor, to put together an offering document. We're actually working on that this week. That offering document, Piper takes out to the market to solicit investment from potential note purchasers. And we conduct the note sale on the 23rd. It will be 11 a.m. If we adopt this resolution. And we come back to the council meeting that evening and say, here's who the bidders were, here's the best rate, and we have all the documents ready to go for you to approve. At that point, an additional resolution that authorizes us to proceed with borrowing these funds and issuing these notes. I should probably mention also that one of the things that staff and Piper have worked on over the last week, and even a little bit before that, but on Thursday of last week, they had a rating call. So one of the things that we do with this offering document together, you get a rating with a rating agency, and that helps attract investors, and they know it's accredited, et cetera. So that's part of the process as well. But really, this resolution 2023-14 is just saying we're on board with conducting the sale. We're on board with going out to the market to solicit investors for these temporary notes, knowing that we will come back to you and report on the bid results and get your final pricing before we actually issue these.
I have a question. I'm sorry. On the resolution number 2023-14, in section 2,
Yes.
does that speak to bringing that back to our meeting that night?
Yes.
Should that be 6 p.m.?
It should be 6 p.m. That's a good catch. Thank you.
Either that or we have to wait till 7.
We have to wait.
That should be 6
No.
p.m. Thank you.
So any motion should include that adjustment from 7 to 6.
Madam Mayor, if there's no further questions, I will make a motion to approve resolution 2023-14, authorizing to Q-Talk Rock LLP to conduct a note sale on October 23rd, 2023. Sounds like a rock group. That's by 6 p.m. change.
I'll second.
Sounds like a rock group.
We have a motion from Councilman Scott and a second from Councilman Bishop. Will the clerk please call roll?
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Yes. Bishop.
Yes.
So now we're gonna move up to item 2C, which is authorizing the city attorney to formally request an AG opinion regarding the mayor's veto authority. Councilman Bishop had a specific question regarding 2C, so we did not pass it on the consent agenda item.
Mayor, I was at the league conference again this weekend, and I talked to the lead counsel for the Kansas municipalities, Kansas League of Municipalities. He says there's only 2 cities in the state of Kansas that can give the mayor the veto right on appropriations, and we're not one of them. Now, Mr. Nye, when I was speaking to Mr. Goodyear, he informed me that he told you that. He relayed that information to you when you two were together one time.
That's correct.
Okay, so why are we hashing this out then, if it's already a done deal?
Well, on September 8th, I sent you my legal memo basically via email, entitled Attorney-Client Privilege Mayoral Veto Power Regarding Budget. I'm happy to discuss that in open session if that's the council's wish. We've already discussed it some, and I can just move forward with it if you want to do that. But obviously, since it was originally attorney-client privilege, I wanted to give the council the opportunity to at least discuss that in executive session if you want to do that. If you want me to proceed, I can.
I do not want to proceed with that. I want this to be done and over with. And if the league says that there's only 2 cities that are authorized to do this, I believe them. They're attorneys also. And they look out for the interest of cities, not for states, not the state. So,
I can speak to that just quickly. I know that I have gotten multiple opinions from league attorneys in the past that contradicted themselves. And so I don't think the league is the authority in Kansas on any legal issue. I was asked by the council to add the attorney general opinion to our agenda, and that's what I had done to get more information. But to put it in a nutshell, basically LKM isn't the authority over our city. We have a city attorney who's looking out for that, and he's looked through the statutes that were not conclusive on those. Gave us a reference to looking at an AG opinion. I felt like that's what council wanted to move forward with.
I mean,
But
I could also ask the LKM if they provide legal opinions for member cities, if you would like to get a second opinion. The issue I think that we've really come down to is I showed my math, like anyone can triple check me on the actual statutes at play, but in the absence of attorney general opinions or case law interpreting what I consider to be conflicting and contradicting statutory language, we're kind of left to our own devices. I believe the unified government mayor recently vetoed their budget.
Yeah.
And so it's not without precedent. And so I think that there are open questions, and my suggestion at the time was, I mean, anyone can seek redress in court if any one of you believe that there was an illegal act that occurred in the passing of the budget. That to me was solved when you came to a 5-0 consensus on a budget. I'm not trying to continue to sow discord by any means, but my privileged memo that I sent to all 6 of you, I think I mentioned in a previous open session that I did talk to the LKM attorney, and I put that in the memo at the time, that's what I tried to seek out multiple second opinions, but thus far I haven't seen actual legal analysis. It's pretty easy just to knee-jerk say, yeah, I think the mayor can, no, I think the mayor can't. My job is to actually say, what would this look like if the harsh light of day in a court, if this issue were taken to a court, what would it look like? And that's what I tried to articulate in the legal.
well, you were comparing KCK, but they're a commissioned form of government in a city of the first class. We're a city of the second class, which our form of government does not mirror theirs.
Well, just the LKM attorney, who I have great respect for, and we had a good exchange. It wasn't any formal request. I was saying, hey, can you check me on this? We served on a similar judicial council committee on civil asset forfeiture at the Supreme Court, and so that's where I spoke with him during a lunch break. Check me on it. Like his if I recall, his examples of the 2 cities that can do it did not include Kansas City, Kansas. Certainly not a first-class city. And so that, to me, adds more murky water. At some point, somebody besides me is going to have to buckle down and actually do the legal analysis if there's continuing questions, and that's why I suggested at the time that potentially, if we can get them interested, that potentially the AG would be a good option for that, especially anticipating next year's budget cycle. I hope that Edwardsville is not in this position again, where there's deep disagreement about the budget. But if there is, you need to know what your rights as council are, and you need to know what your rights as mayor is under the statutes and under your ordinances.
When I was talking to him, I specifically said city of the second class. And that's where he gave me said there's only 2 cities of the second class that can have the mayor veto the appropriations ordinances, because he didn't go into any detail because it's,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to us, but I mean-
wouldn't expect him to on.
right. Yeah, but I mean,
How much time did he take to research that, or did we just answer you right in the conversation?
he answered me right in the conversation.
So he didn't look into it at all?
And
He's looked into it several times because other cities have gone through this.
So we can continue. I mean, perhaps I think we need to move on with the agenda. This has to do with my veto authority. To let the residents know in a nutshell, in case they weren't aware, in our charter ordinance, the mayor does have the right to veto as pertains to the state statutes. State statutes aren't definitive on our specific form of government. In a veto, it doesn't take away the council. It doesn't eliminate the council vote. It just calls for a higher threshold to override the mayor's veto. So that means four council members would have to override if that's decided. Ultimately, after a couple of weeks, we got to an agreement and were able to get through the budget. But the wishes of the council at that point were to move on with getting an attorney general opinion to further investigate the ability of the mayor to veto on budget purposes within the council. Now, item C, 2C, is authorize the city attorney to formally request an attorney general's opinion regarding the mayor's veto authority. We can table this if we want to. We can have a motion and vote on it, but I think either way, we need to probably move forward.
Yeah, I think just, I'll chime in here, being as I mentioned it last time, but I think we all just, well, I'm just going to speak for myself. I need clarity on, that power of veto. Like I said, just from me reading state statute, and, it says that the mayor absolutely has power of veto with charter ordinance and or ordinances. And so I just want to make sure, for me, and I think for our mayor, I think we need to find out, hopefully the attorney general will give you an answer. And I don't know if the attorney general is the final answer, whether, one way or the other. And I just want clarity on whether, our mayor can or can't, that into that. Not that that's going to change anything and what we voted on. We all voted on it. It was a, unanimous decision, and that's great. We did that, but I think for the future, I think it's just beneficial for all of us because we don't need the animosity up here. We need to be able to have a good debate and go from there. But when there's a undecisiveness or there's an unclarity on a rule or policy or a state statute, that's when we need your guidance to give us that information. So I make the motion to approve our city attorney to formally request an attorney general's opinion regarding the mayor's veto.
I second that.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Scott, a second from Councilman Malat. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcock,
Yes.
Bishop,
No.
May I ask one question?
Of course, yes.
So will the attorney general's decision be final? I'm sorry, I got to be the devil's advocate.
And that's why
We don't
we
have
do.
to, we don't have to discuss it. We'll kick that can when we get to it.
Do you want me to answer that or no?
Yes.
Okay. So the attorney general opinions are guidance. They're cited by courts all the time as persuasive authority. I would say in the area of municipal law, they are very common because municipal law is very across the board complicated. There's partially because cities have so much discretion on how to run themselves via the charter process and home rule. And so it's all over the board. An attorney general's opinion would not stop any one of you from filing suit in mandamus to force some action that they believe that the legality of some ordinance, including a budget ordinance, that had been vetoed but passed by 3 council members. So it wouldn't provide the same sort of finality as a district court opinion that was upheld on appeal. But it is, I think it is more finality potentially than simply my opinion, because it does provide published statewide guidance that the AG is trying to interpret the statutes in a way that can provide guidance to all municipalities. And it flags for the legislature where the AG may think that there's ambiguity, contradicting statutes, et cetera. So the legislature can potentially provide finality in the form of statutory change. And that may be something that LKM would be interested in doing even this next session, to clarify what KSA 12-3003 means. Because all they have to do is take council city out of 3003, and I would think that it would be uniformly applicable. And the only way that you could potentially change that is through a charter ordinance. As it exists right now, it says a council city. So the question, one of the questions that I'm going to put in the request to the Attorney General's office is, does that term, does that apply to all forms of city? Is that superfluous language? If it doesn't, does it include a mayor, council manager form of city of the second class? What's the interplay of the other chapter 14 statutes that I cited as far as the veto authority that doesn't mention anything about not being able to veto budget ordinances? And finally, can a city of the second class charter out of the veto prescriptions in other statutes, regardless of what they say, because the statutes are not uniformly applicable and therefore home rule applies. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about structuring the letter to the AG to try to whet their interest, so to speak.
Okay, thank you.
So what was the vote? I couldn't hear.
It was 4-1, and I think that Josh, you said we needed a council consensus before that.
No, I think that is a majority
You're good?
vote. And I'm happy to draft that letter, and unless there's some other opinion, I'll probably have that draft letter, show it to you all. If you want to bring it up on a future agenda as far as modifying what I asked, then I'll send it in 2 weeks.
Perfect. Thank you.
We had another one that we pushed back, and that was item number 3, which is old business. Consider authorizing city manager to approve change order number 2 with Legacy Underground for the 102nd Street culvert replacement project.
Yeah, and I have an update on this. I think I was instructed to see what I could do, so to speak, on the actual change order. I did pull the have city staff send me, if I can find it here. The change order breakdown. The only thing I flagged and asked them about was the overhead, 10% added overhead, which is standard for them, they said, as well as the profit. They did indicate that the profit, 5% profit is standard for them within their contracts as well. Profit is what we make on the project. Overhead covers the office costs, other management costs like fuel truck, etc. And the representative from Legacy indicated they took out the profit to try to bring down the cost sum. And then I asked about taking off the change order fee, indicating that we could probably be more specific about that in the future, just to in the contract, so that we all know where things stand if we have an approved change order. The response was that they cannot remove overhead, as it is a real cost to them. He agrees that most contracts do specify overhead and profit. And so we could include that in the future. I think your decision point is whether to basically approve something that would not include the overhead, 10% overhead, or to just go ahead and approve it as it was submitted. The total cost of the change order after CE's negotiation with him to bring it down to this amount was $15,810.56. If you were to approve that without the overhead, it would bring it down an additional $1,416.08. Again, they believe that they're owed that, but I don't think that was contractually specified, so it's up to you.
What was the total?
$15,810.56.
You said down 1,000?
Well, they didn't agree to any adjustment, but if you want to unilaterally do it and just say,
No, I think we need to pay them. I want to make the motion to authorize the change order number to an amount of $15,810.56. Pay the bill.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Malat and a second from Councilman Bishop. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcock, Bishop,
Yes.
And I would like, they compliment them on the job that they did, because it really does look good. The guardrails set it off, so to speak.
Number 9, consider motion to recess into executive session pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 for consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. About how much time do we figure?
I'd say overall 20 minutes.
20.
With the invite, the topic is legal advice. Can agree on that. And in attendance should be our city attorney and our bond counsel.
And then interim city manager.
yeah, the interim city manager would be part of the collective client.
Madam Mayor, make a motion to recess into executive session for 20 minutes pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 for consultation with attorney for the public body or agency that would be deemed privileged attorney-client relationship, to include the legal advice, the interim city manager, and who else?
Bond counsel and city attorney.
Bond counsel and city attorney.
Second.
They'll return in 20 minutes,
7:45.
7:45 according to that clock.
We have a motion from Councilman Malat and a second from Councilman Shriver. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcock,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Oh, stretching legs.
All right.
This conference will now be recorded.
Sorry about that
Carolyn?
noise. A second from Councilman Scott. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
sorry, Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcock, Bishop,
Yes.
So number 10 is consider a motion to recess into executive session pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1 to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel. This one will include our city attorney.
I will make that motion. How long do you need?
Let's see, 20 minutes. I think 15. 15 minutes. We'll do that. And then if we need to, I'm so sorry. I don't know the time right now.
15
Let's say 8:20.
8:05.
8:05.
It is 8:05 now.
No, it's a-
I'm sorry. I don't have a
Return at 8:05.
return at 8:05.
Yes.
Sorry. There's a glare on the clock and I can't see it from here. We have a motion from Councilman Malat and a second from Councilman Scott to return at 8:05. Sorry, guys. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcock, Bishop,
Thank you.
This conference will now be recorded.
Second.
We have a motion to return by Councilman Malat, a second by Councilman Scott. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcock, Bishop,
to return to executive session on the same subject matter, to return at 8:25.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Malat, a second from Councilman Scott. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcox. Yes. Bishop. And I'm sorry, what time did you say?
8:25.
8:25.
Let's take this.
No. You'll get gas. Go home. I live in off 108th Street, but I see more, do I have to come in by your house?
Both ways.
Both ways?
Both ways.
You see it both ways?
You get on that hill across the street from his old house, get up there, you got a good shot of it. Just go on down toward down the driveway, you go down there.
I'll just park in the cul-de-sac, nobody drives there, I'll just walk up.
This conference will now be recorded.
You can hear her. Start to stop, start to fuck. Yeah, she has like a chest clock on her head.
Make a motion to return to regular session?
Second.
Amen.
We have a motion to return from Councilman Shriver, a second from Councilman Malat. I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, yeah.
will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcox.
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
We going outside.
Lock the door.
Yeah, he's locking.
Oh, I have, you have the right key? Here.
No.
I need a key.
I just don't touch the screen. It's a touch screen. Yeah.
Mayor, I make a motion that the contractor interim city manager Mark McPeace be extended upon the same, I did it again.
Oh, my. Clicked on it.
That's too fancy, sorry. Let's try this.
What is this?
Yeah, I'm gonna hold.
Don't touch it.
Yes.
I move that the contractor interim city manager Mark McPeace be extended upon the same terms until December 1st, 2023, or until a permanent city manager is appointed and employed, whichever occurs first.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Malat, a second from Councilman Shriver. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Adcox.
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes. All right.
That is all on our regular items. City manager report.
We have nothing more than what was provided in writing.
Councilman Adcox. I don't have anything. Councilman Bishop.
I thought the idea of having a, keeping the citizens up to date on Richland, because I know, it's a pretty busy street with buses, school buses. I've noticed a couple of them going up and down that way. But, just letting them know, because I know that one resident lives next door to her son, and he has diabetes real bad, so she's gonna need to know how to get over to his house, when the construction starts. And she voiced that concern, so. Other than that, that's it.
Councilman Malat.
I have two or three things that I would like to bring up. I was going to make mention of the veto power, but that was already taken care of in the agenda. I was contacted by former Commissioner Jim Walters the other day concerned with the silent crossings, and he suggested to me, since he's really the one that got that instigated with the county, with the UG, he's really the one that took the ball on that one and got these crossings fixed. He suggested that maybe we should, as a city government, formulate a letter to the UG and to the Union Pacific Railroad to be signed by all of us, if that would be okay with the council and the mayor, to see if we can't speed up this process. We have done our part. We've spent money for that upgrade, and if the UG has dropped the ball on it, then somebody needs to be held accountable for that. Or if the railroad is holding up on that, somebody needs, I think it's just time that something really needs to be done on that. And this March, April, May of 2024 just doesn't get it with me. And I know that it's a pet peeve of mine, but if you live anywhere close to those railroad tracks, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You gotta just come to a complete halt when those guys come through here with those whistles. So I'd like to request that, if I could, if I could have you maybe direct somebody to put a letter together, possibly get the approval of the council, if I could get a consensus, I'd appreciate that.
It's been several weeks on the update from them on the
So,
signs.
what
Price
is
was
the
too
problem?
small. Some indicator that the signs were too small, so they weren't in regulation.
Well,
And then the piece of the road on 98th Street, when you're talking about the spring, that's when the UG is gonna come out or have the contractor come back out and fix the road that's just not quite right. But it has nothing to do with the side crossing. It does, but it doesn't. It's not holding up that piece. So our last report was the signs were not regulation. So that's a piece that the Union Pacific directed and say, hey, this isn't right, you have to fix that.
so whose responsibility was it to repair the signs, to put in
Well,
the right signs?
the UG is running the project and they are directing whomever the project contractor is to get those things done. So the last update was they installed the signs, they're too small. So now the next piece is, did they do that? And is that what's holding it up? But the road structure and some of that failure, they didn't do a good job of putting that piece there south of the railroad tracks on 98th Street, that they have to come back and repair that in the spring. And it's just a little cut that they have to level out.
Well, the former commissioner told me that road should not make the crossings not silent, that issue should not affect that.
Yeah.
So I think I think UG needs to do something, or they're just gonna keep putting it off and forget about it. And, I, for one, I live in Edwardsville, and we've had discussions about unified government issues and so forth. I think it's time that we start voicing our concerns with them on those kind of issues.
Get a letter by the next meeting, we could all sign it. Oh,
Yes.
would that be enough time? Okay. So,
Give them a computer or a chair.
Yeah, well, I hit there's a lever down here that you run into.
So yes, we can address the letter. We'll, through our contact with the unified government, we have, CE has that. And we've met with them. So we'll address it to them and CC the Union Pacific Railroad and figure out where that would go.
can we have it ready to sign at our next
Yeah,
meeting?
that's.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I really do appreciate that. And, it's just something that I think that we're just being put on the back burner on that. Has there been any kind of, Brad's here, was here, has there been any kind of discussion with anybody about possibility of sidewalks to the dollar store? Where anybody has kind of gone down there and walked that property to see?
Well, I mean, staff, meaning planning and zoning, we talked about maybe the areas in which we would consider where it could go, the safest route, that sort of thing. We talked about, we got the big obstacle, if you just go immediately left or west, right after the railroad tracks. Well, you got private property and then you got railroad easement, could be a challenge. And that's not normally where we would put a sidewalk. You usually go towards the right of way of some street access, that sort of thing. But what you do have is some improved services where if you go west immediately, you have, somewhat a little bit abandoned, not a through street, but it's an improved service, right? That we could probably improve that. And then if we go up towards where the convenience store is, I'm trying to put my bearings in here, they have a parking lot, which we wouldn't have to somewhat get into the right of way of the state, which is the more difficult piece. But maybe if we could negotiate some of that parking lot as the path and move those, traffic stops, the parking stops.
Right.
Would be south. So you have say a 10-foot walkway there that would protect people from any traffic coming in, and it's not in that right of way. So then that would go west farther. You kind of go with that same plan until you get to the Dollar General.
I would like to have somebody do something to investigate that.
We need engineering for that.
Yes.
And that's, right now, that's the part of the holdup with the Williamson Farms, the school area.
Right.
It's just a matter of getting the right bids, getting them detailed. That where a little bit of the obstacle is, somewhat, we have a working professional service contract with VHC. It's an on-call, right? So if we have a project and we need some engineering, can you tell us this and that? We call them as our official city engineer, and they put these documents together. Well, they put one together that had a number in it. I think that our city attorney used the word, they showed their math, they showed their work. Well, and then we said, well, never mind about that work, let's go out and go get bids. Well, it's a little unfair, but the bids we were comparing, because this is a good topic, let's bring this up, is, well, it's not apples to apples at all. I mean, there's some engineering and it's surveying, but what really is it? When VHC, our official engineering company, has 44 items in the list, we got maybe 23. So the challenge has been, well, are they the same bid? One's lower and one's higher, but really, are you getting the same service? And so that's something we've been working with to try to get. So in a sense, if we want to go out for engineering for that, we need to go out for a competitive bid so everybody can submit at the same time. And that would be for pre-construction, survey, and design of that. And we got to talk about some right-of-way acquisition, negotiating with these owners of these parking lots to see if we can take some of that. So there's a process to it, and if that's the priority, we can certainly do that.
Well, I think it's
Notice how long we've been stuck with just the Williamson Farm piece of it. It's been just a kind of a grueling process.
Well, I think it's important enough for our south of the tracks neighbors to residents to have that access, especially with the old folks with the high rise and the homes down there that people need to be able. That's the only place they can go.
Yeah.
I was in the high rise the other day and they said, when are you going to get a grocery store down there? I said, well, we had one, but we don't anymore. And
Well,
so
here's what we can do.
I sympathize with them on that.
As I mentioned, we have an agreement. It's been in place for quite a long time, 2010. We have an agreement with our official city engineer. And what we can ask them to do, because we need to compare apples to apples, is that, okay, could you lay out somewhat of a pre-design here, and then we can go out and ask those for requests for proposals, statement of work, right? A scope of the work from other engineering firms to bid out the surveying and all of it based on what our official city engineer said. This is the route we should use. This is how much linear feet it's going to be, and improved service, all of those kinds of things. So we know what they should be bidding on. Does that make sense? And so that would be the next step is we'll have to engage our official engineer to come out and map this out for us. And then we can get bid proposals based on that work. So that would be the next step, if that's what you consensusly want me to do.
I do. I'd like to see heads doing this up here, but that's not my business to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
45 words or less next time. CPPS board, are they aware of the property that we bought where we took the house down at the on Fourth and the railroad track?
We haven't interacted with them at all.
I think
it's certainly something we could tell them about, I guess.
Yeah, I think CPPS board should be aware of that project and what the council was kind of thinking when we purchased that, to make some kind of a gathering spot for the city and possibly a small parking area. I think that something needs to get rolling right there.
So the intent there would be to talk to them about it, and maybe they will come
See
up
if
with
they
some
had some
ideas
kind
and
of a
things.
park type of a plan for that area.
Okay. Park
So we
plan.
had discussed a few things before.
Okay.
And
We meet Wednesday.
I mean,
Yes.
it is so nice now that we have that property, and I want to know what kind of grass seed they put there because it sure grew good. I want that.
Yeah, in a drought, really. Yeah.
I try to grow grass at home and it doesn't do that. It's like my head. I would like to see if maybe the mayor would do an invite to Chuck Stites, our commissioner, to give us a little overview and update on what's going on countywide concerns Edwardsville, possibly at the next meeting. I know that he's always said that he's more than willing to come down here and talk. And I think it'd be a good idea to have him come, maybe get on the agenda for the next meeting.
I'll have to check with them on scheduling, of
Or-
course, and because they have a lot of meetings that overlap with ours, but I'm sure.
I think there's a lot of things
Good
maybe going on
invitation.
in there that we're not aware of that he could probably kind of enlighten us on, so. Thank
Mayor,
you.
you're taking that on.
But yeah, I'll let them know that, see if something will work out here in the near future.
Thank you for allowing me to spend 20 minutes.
Councilman Trevor.
Yeah, we got rid of
First, always want to say appreciate the comments from the public. Good to hear ideas, comments, questions, concerns. I feel like sometimes could be followed up, maybe if there's something that can be answered or whatnot. Sometimes it's as easy as a phone call to the offices if any of the, I don't think anybody's here, made their comments. So, right. Anyway, it's sometimes just as easy as calling up the city hall and asking their questions directly to somebody. Because it is, I know it's been set up here, but we can't answer anything. So, but we always appreciate the comments. I'm excited about all our road improvements and our projects going on because we got to have good roads for everybody and we got to spend big money to get that done. So that's exciting. Chief Whittam. So I noticed here, I read here that you're still working on a Metro-wide automatic aid agreement, 8 years in the waiting. How close is this, or just giving us an update, or?
So we have a chiefs meeting luncheon here at Edwardsville Wednesday at lunchtime with the command staff of the Kansas Fire Department and the new chief over Bonner. The draft resolution, the draft agreement has been approved by all three chiefs. We are hoping to have it in front of councils and city managers within the next 30 to 45 days for their approval to have it implemented by 1 January of 2020.
Okay, so you'll bring us details of it later. Okay.
As soon as, like I said, we're hoping to have the last bit of our logistics worked out
Okay.
Wednesday as far as changes within dispatch protocol, some radio frequency changes, and then I know from some of my conversations I've had with Mr. Matisse, from some situations of previous history, conversations I've had with both the chiefs of both other jurisdictions, we're probably 10, 15 days out. Most of the times, all of our drafts have been done. We've got all that worked out. So we're thinking it's going to be sometime right around the first part of November. We have it in front of 3 different councils to sit there and have the brief overview for approval by the mayors or their designees. However, it's laid out. Most times it's bid by city managers. The council has a brief on it to direct city managers to sign it. And then, like I said, I think the implementation date we've got targeted is 1 January.
This will be a good thing.
Yes.
Good. Congratulations. Sounds like it's been a lot of work. Last, but certainly not least, I'm just going to bring something back up that I've mentioned a time or two. Our sign, our digital sign for our city. I just noticed and read through these activities and Parks and Rec, and there's just a lot of information. And we as a city, we don't have a newspaper. We talk about that. That's been a long time ago. We have our, we can maybe mail something with our utility, but now that utility bill comes as a, as a postcard. So I know it's extra money if we want to mail some information to our residents. If they go to the, Facebook as a means, our website as a means, the hot shot, if they have an email, we're covering small groups, I think. That's just my personal opinion. But just a sign, a location, most cities have them. You see them, and it's just about an event coming up. I know we have the one on the trailer, which is good, but
Not near as good as the permanent one that we talked about before.
right. And I thought there was some money earmarked. I mean, I know there was a little bit of
CARES ARPA money, that's what that is.
right. I know, and it doesn't have to be something big and glorious, but it's just something for people to see. It catches their eye. Oh, the Spooky Express. It just, you have to register for stuff like that. It's just, I hate to, task somebody with that, but the years have gone by and we're losing information to our residents where, I think a sign, I don't know when we'd all have to decide where, but I think our 4th Street K32 is probably one of our busiest intersections. It kind of gateway to both sides of the town. I don't know. Just something to think about.
We did look there in the past, if you recall some of the conversations.
The challenge on the
The
corners.
challenge was that corner there by the church on that side, if you will.
Right.
There's some right of way, but it's, we got to work with the state. If it's a placement, was going to be, if you buy this pretty expensive sign, if you don't place it properly, it's not going to be seen from all these
Right.
kind of directions. So part of that was the challenge. I don't know if there was any efforts on the other side of the street, being the northeast corner there, to see if whether or not there would be, if we had some remuneration, maybe we buy an easement or something there and put everybody, I always thought it was a pedestal sign, like set on, but maybe it's
Something.
more of a little, a higher sign that we, on a post kind of thing. Maybe but does that interfere with somebody selling their property to another building, to a builder or something? They wouldn't want that on there. I don't know. But if you want us to go and look to see, we know the church side is the most difficult. That even though there's some piece of property, it's just but the other side, Mrs. Roberts owns that, I believe, and maybe we could talk about chunking out a piece of that for whatever it might cost us, if that's really the priority. So, and we do have land acquisition funds that are there. Those creative things that we can talk about. I don't know if it can be done for free, but we can certainly ask.
Right.
So.
Or maybe if anybody on the council between the next couple has any ideas or something, I just think a lot of information isn't passed by to people because they just simply didn't know. So.
Well, I put that out there so you can kind of consider it. If you have direction, just let me know and we'll pursue.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilman Scott.
Gary Carpenter spoke earlier from our public comments about Riverview, the road project. He was talking about, seems like a lot of work is getting doubled or mud everywhere, pipe getting redone. Do we know why that's going on? I mean, do we have any idea at all?
I took the notes maybe to communicate with their city manager, Bonner Springs. It's not our road, not our right of way.
Okay,
That's one of those,
project.
yeah. So
Right.
our hands are really tied up there. We just don't have any.
And that's what I want. I didn't know that.
Yeah, not more than likely. He didn't really say, but maybe he did say. He's probably communicated with them on Bonner Springs side.
Yeah.
But maybe a note from us is, hey, this is impacting
Yeah.
your people and our people, and
Yeah.
maybe can be more oversight of what's happening over there. You
Yeah.
mentioned survey work looked off, water line, that sort of stuff. So I took some notes.
Okay.
I'll
Thank
send an
you.
email.
Thank you. If you can follow up with that, I appreciate it. Speaker Road, one of the landowners on the very end was asking about, it looked like the road was done and then next thing you knew, it was tore back up and now it looked like they're laying some concrete on the very end of it, on the very west end of Speaker Road.
The very west end, we missed 30 feet is what happened. They're coming in with a different method, if you will, to finish that portion of it. There was some edges that were not finished correctly, didn't have enough surface to them, that they were patching up as well. So it was staked short, and so they stopped where it was staked, and that was about 30 feet short. So they should have come in. CE's been out, so we don't. Ben McEnany, we haven't communicated with him, maybe at least from my office, but they were supposed to finish that 30 feet, and it may be a different type of surface. Maybe it was a little more, maybe they had extra, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'll follow back up with that and get you an answer to everybody.
Yeah.
What they're doing.
He mentioned it was concrete and he said it really didn't make sense why it would be concrete. But the other thing he was upset about is that there really wasn't any notification, that they were going to do the work. And then when they did the work, the forms and everything blocked his access to his property without any communication at all. So that's, if we can get to the bottom of that. And I don't know the status of it right now. Haven't drove over there yet to see that.
Hopefully, see you be back tomorrow, hopefully, and
Okay.
we'll be able to have a conversation. I know he's in touch with Ben McEnany.
Okay, perfect.
Who's the man on that?
Well, hopefully C gets feeling better.
So too.
Let's see here. With our upcoming election, I think we've had one more council meeting before. Does that sound right? One more council meeting before our election. I know the special sales tax, is going to be on the ballot. And do we have I think we heard something about maybe having our fire truck and our equipment on display somewhere. Are we doing that on the day of the election? Or are we doing it like this weekend, next weekend? What's the plan?
We have 3 Fridays slated, right, Chief? 3 Fridays. And then where our social media blitz as much as we can, whoever reach that is. in any form that we can. I think it's on the website. We've been blasting. We've had staff.
So we was notified by our supervisor that we got authorization to take the vessel over to our World Trade Bridge. We have a higher density, higher rate of radiation.
There's a little blurb in every one of those, but we're doing a full showcase. We did the fire department first. We're coming back with the public works and
Nice.
and then we're coming back with equipment because it's been big trucks and things, but some of this little equipment that we bought, it's fairly expensive and it's paid for. So that's our features on the social media blitz. Tim Whittam is trying to work to we want the Roberts property right there on that corner. We think that's the highest visibility. We want to park our things there with a banner. So it says this pit was paid for through special sales tax.
Sweet.
And it's be on display. It'll be on display 3 hours, sir.
7:30 to 9 on that Friday morning, and 3:30 to 5:30 on that Friday afternoon. So it's 3 Fridays.
Yep. And Chief Whittam and I discussed, and we think we have a channel maybe to get with Mrs. Roberts to get permission to do that. And we just haven't had phone calls returned. We were hoping the mayor would help us. Maybe you have a direct line maybe there. I'm thinking maybe not. But we're just trying to get permission so we could park there and use it similarly. They had the fireworks stand there and everything. Very visible. We'll have our big stuff out there and say with a banner. And so 3 times we're going to try that. As far as the election day, we'll be careful, but it'll be out on display and we'll have that banner somewhere.
That's great. That static display will be incredible.
Election day, we're thinking we're going to put it on the front apron.
Front apron.
Public works and all that on the fire department side right there on the corner.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it'll go right there on the
And we can put that same paid for by these things. We're not saying vote. We're
Yeah.
just saying paid for by these things.
Absolutely.
By the sales tax.
That's great. Thank you for that. And so the corner you're talking about is 4th Street and Call Drive?
K32,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep. We're hoping to get there. If we can't, we have a couple of alternatives. But the problem is get down K32, the faster the traffic is. So a
Yeah.
sign you can't hardly read. You'll just see some fire trucks. So, by the way, but we want people to see it. Whether slow down. Yeah, slow down. But yes, thanks for Tim Whittam working on that. And that's our social media blitz. That's our display, static displays.
And then you'll take pictures and then also put that on your
We're gonna do what
social.
we can.
More information, the better. We definitely need that to pass. Let's see here. Public Works location, and then, let's try to get that back on the agenda. I know we've all been swamped. I know you guys have been swamped. And I think more importantly, because we've had so much input about the North Station as the Public Works, we've had, public come in and talk to us about that. If nothing else, just, I know it's a big project, but I think if we can just focus like this first time or the next time on whether just the North Station should be the Public Works facility. I think if we can figure that out, if yes, that's it, or no, that's not it, then that way, then we can, if it's not it, we can go to plan B, whatever that is. If that's it, then we can move forward with plan A. It means we've had so much input, one way or the other. I think it's good to have. I think we talked about a public hearing or something.
Kind of survey maybe, it's a matter of what the body wants to do next. Really, you've heard a lot of, local feedback here in person. We did plan at some point maybe an online survey. I don't know if that's necessary now. It's really about what you guys want us to do staff wise. Do you want us to look at maybe other property that's may become available? We do have development potential on the previous discussion property on the southeast in that TIF district. So that's probably more than likely off the table. So we would have to go. Now, the original plan in the comprehensive plan put that building, what we call the Mars property, south of that TIF property that we already talked about on 93rd Street. So that still may be something that we could consider. We haven't talked to those folks about, some sort of replatting of that and just the piece of property. But originally, when you look at that, somewhat the overlay of that particular development down there, there's the Mars property, which is south. That particular building was actually placed there in that zone, that area. And Bradley's here. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, Bradley's not here. He's disappeared. Lucky him. He's watching the football game without us. But that's, as far as I saw from the comprehensive plan, that building was actually south of where that discussion that you had in executive session.
Okay. It's completely up to the mayor, whatever. I just think it'd be good
Tell
to
me which way to go.
kind of
Okay?
talk about it again with the North Station, regardless of one way or the other, what we're going to do. And then finally, I've never campaigned before. So there's 5 of us that are running for 3 seats, and with the election fast approaching, I was just wondering if Edwardsville could host a meet and greet.
Yeah, Mr. Malak.
Huh?
I can answer to that.
Okay.
The Bonner Springs Edwardsville Chamber of Commerce is going to host a candidate forum in 670 next Tuesday night.
That training center right here. That you
Okay.
just in.
They're doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the Chamber of Commerce Bonner Springs is having one at the library the same night.
For them?
Yes, for
And
Bonner.
then there'll be one.
We're having one here.
Okay.
It will be sponsored, or Garrett White will be the moderator of it.
So it'll meet and greet?
It'll be a candidates forum.
Oh, cool.
He'll have a series of questions and
Okay.
Public invited?
yes. Oh, yeah.
How's it
Candidates forum.
how's that gonna be advertised? How people gonna know?
Well, he just decided on this today because he was trying to find a place to have it. And with the
Yeah,
issue that
I hadn't heard anything.
Yeah, I don't know what our responsibility can be in that. I think the
to
Chamber of Commerce does have.
provide the place, and then I
Yeah.
asked Garrett White to call you tomorrow,
Okay, that's fine.
and we've already got the room scheduled, so.
Yeah. So that's, I think,
And
you
then
using the room is
Yeah,
fine.
and I'm out of it now because I'm one of the candidates, and, I just liaison through the chamber.
So I
Yeah.
think the best way, if the Chamber of Commerce can build an advertisement for it, then it's no different than anything else. We could link it to our Facebook and things like that.
And he might ask you that question
Yep.
tomorrow, and it might be asked to be put on Edwardsville's website, or possibly the electronic sign may be up at the corner or something.
We'll see what we can do. We don't want to
Yeah,
cross any lines here.
Like I said, I didn't know. I didn't know. It seemed like it made sense to have a meet and greet, and answer questions and kind of go from there with 5 of us looking for 3 seats. So, and I'll get with you, Garrett, find out when and what time.
I'm not doing that. It's Garrett White.
Huh?
It's the Chamber of Commerce that's doing
Oh, well,
Yeah.
thought you said a
I
date.
found him a room, and I said, now it's up to
Okay.
you to do this, because I don't.
Okay. So more information coming, right?
Did you know about this?
Well, they
5
called me
o'clock tonight.
earlier today.
5 o'clock this afternoon.
Wanting to reschedule something. So they had originally got the community center
Yes.
on Monday night
That's where they were
because
before.
there is an event on Tuesday night in that building. So the only building left, the room left, was the training room on a Tuesday. So, and that gives at least some room for them to advertise starting tomorrow.
Right.
So that's what I understand.
And potentially let candidates know there's a candidate for them.
Yeah.
They were not aware.
Somebody's going to have to talk to them.
Well, I just found out about it at 5 o'clock tonight.
Well, like I said, I knew that, we got an email from Bonner Springs, the library, all of us did. And at least I think all of us did, but, I attended that and, for the Edwardsville side, but most of it was more, Bonner related. And so just made sense that hopefully we can do something in Edwardsville. So I appreciate that information. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
That's right. I will wrap it up quickly. Sidewalk was brought up a couple of times tonight. We have one that we're talking about by the school, and then Councilman Malott brought up K32. We have a county engineer, and I'm not sure that they ever visit Edwardsville. I'd love for us to reach out and find out what they do for our county, and if all of that work is in Kansas City, Kansas, or when and if they cross over to Edwardsville, if they might be able to help us out with these projects.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Do you happen to know the name by any chance? I can look it up.
I'll get
Google
it for you.
It's the same
Get
one
on.
you want for the UP crossings too.
Yeah, and we can.
Chuck will know.
Okay.
Chuck will know that.
Yeah, I would like to
I can
just
search.
see, maybe there's a resource there that would help us out.
Maybe so.
So it'd be worth making a phone call or an email. I'm real excited about road improvements coming soon, much needed in our city. So excited to see that prioritized and coming to fruition. Have a good night.
That's it. Well, okay. Thank you.
You break my chair when I wasn't.
No, no, you're not